Pardon me for being late. Way too many technical problems this morning. It wouldn't even, the thing wouldn't even take my thumbnail. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, boring stuff. We're going to do a short version today. Wife's still not home. She's coming back today. So slept in, kids, da-da-da-da-da. So we're going to do our best. You're seeing a very unprepared version of the show this morning. So, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine, right, Ben? We're going to do okay. We truly hold the real wealth of this world. These fiat bros are just broke boys. We're going to be talking about that. Good morning, Tom. Dafina, hope you're doing well. Indeed, live long and prosper. We love it. It's dark and chilly, 3 coffee morning. Good morning, all. Yeah, I'm on my third coffee, Thomas. I'm on my third coffee. Jeremy, good morning, Bitcoiners. Tommy, fear no NPC. No, we got the number. We've got NPCs figured out. Tommy's been a big help. Toddle T, Washington, good morning, Breakup. T-Dog, Yo-Yo, hope you're doing great, man. It is going to be an amazing week. It is. There we go. And we got Christine. Hope you're doing great, Christine. I'm skipping through because I'm late. Morning from Florida, where my wife will be home soon. We're happy. Bitcoin is still champion, indeed. Robert, there you go. We got a bit of a sunny morning on our hands here in Montreal, but it's cool. It's great. No problems at all. Bitcoin's running just fine, everyone. Let's talk about what's new. But first, we've got to talk about some fake news. Pretty good selection of fake news over the weekend. I expected more. I expected to find more, but I found some good stuff. This is from the New York Post. Drug addicts, homeless plaguing San Francisco's downtown miraculously disappear ahead of Biden-Xi Jinping summit. Miraculously. So this one is from 2019, but it's one of those, how's it going? One of those memes, like how it was going, how it's going now, So the 2019 headline, Marvel's universe to expand with more diversity, inclusion. So that was in 2019. This weekend, The Marvels records historic MCU low box office opening. The Marvels set to record for the lowest box office opening in MCU history. So the Marvel movie that came out this weekend, terrible indeed. And Deadline even says it. The Marvels meltdown, Disney MCU posts lowest box office opening ever. What went wrong? We got a few fake headlines here from Peter St. Owen. She's collected a few over a little while now. So this is the Biden. The genre here is Biden blaming the media for people's perception about the economy. Okay, here's the headlines that would fit that, right? So he's blaming the media. So Prof. St. Owen said, "Is that really the case?" And he took some stories from the media. So this is The Economist. America's economic outperformance is a marvel to behold. So this is the media. This is what he's skating against, he says. This is the hard trouble. Joe Biden has given us the greatest economy ever. This is from the Inquirer. Spread the news. U.S. economy is strong under Biden. Wall Street Journal. U.S. economy shows surprising vigor in first half of 2023. Yahoo Finance. Americans haven't felt this good about the economy in almost 2 years. Wall Street Journal. Could a recession still be a years away? Steady growth, moderating inflation, improve odds of extended expansion. And then just from recently, the U.S. economy is great. Stop worrying about it. Pretty good stuff. And I got one more. So this is from the NBC fact checkers. All right. So Ron DeSantis has been going out claiming credit for flying home Israeli Americans to Florida, I guess, with all the stuff that's been going on. So he says, I sent over planes to Israel and brought back 700 people to safety. So that's what NBC has taken issue with, right? What's their fact check? This is half true. DeSantis signed an executive order that allowed the Florida Division of Emergency Management to pay for Americans in Israel to fly back to the U.S., but the flights were organized by someone else, a nonprofit. So the fact check is, yeah, he did all that stuff, but he didn't fly the planes. Come on. DeSantis didn't fly the planes. He didn't bring anyone back. That's what they're going with, I swear to God. So If you didn't see it, America now has Potemkin villages. So, what's a Potemkin village? Well, a Potemkin village is a fake town which you build for propaganda purposes. I've actually seen one of the most famous fake towns, Potemkin villages in the world. It's in North Korea. You can go on the border of South Korea and you can see it. I've seen it. It's amazing. They got like, it's shitty old 80s skyscrapers, but at the time they might have been impressive. And then it's all speakers and that shoots information into South Korea. They're still going. So what was funny, the first time I went was like 20 years ago, and the messages, I don't know if they've been updated, but so you're coming from South Korea, which is like a food orgy, right? It's just food everywhere and the best food, and it's inexpensive. We talked a little bit last week about the Big Mac index and how cheap Big Macs were in South Korea for someone used to spending American money. It was like $4.50 for the Big Mac trio, and you could even get bacon implied on the Big Mac, so it's a different Big Mac slightly over there. So a typical lunch when I lived there was $5 and it got you everything, and it was like rice. And by the way, I even had I still think about this. I had a conversation once in a place I used to hang out in Seoul, right nearby where you saw that tragedy on Halloween 2022 where people sort of crushed themselves and all that stuff. But anyway, I used to hang out around there, and there was a bar I used to hang out in, and I spoke with the owners of the bar several times. It was some ladies, right? They had been sort of ladies. They were like 60 years old at that point. They had been ladies of the night in a previous life, but now ran this bar very well. It was a super cool hangout spot filled with like arms dealers and gangsters. It was a really cool place. Very, very Mos Eisley spaceport filled with villainy and scum and all these kinds of things. But an amazing place. I remember giving a guy a high five once, and all of his knuckles were cut off. So he must have done something. So the thing about this place is, I remember, on a quiet night or whatever, I was speaking with the owners of the place, and they were telling me what it was like in the 1960s in Korea. And at the time, she said, "Look, we would have meat once a year. It would be like a big, big thing." So all this to say, the Potemkin village brainwashing propaganda coming out of that town in North Korea was all sort of calibrated still to the 1960s. It was like, come to North Korea, we have rice, we have food, right? And everyone in South Korea is fat and sitting there, what are you talking about? You don't have as much food as we do, right? Do you got $4.50 Big Mac trios up there? I don't think so. You don't got any of that. But this idea of a Potemkin village in America. So of course they come from Russia, where they actually did this for the first time. So what's happening right now in San Francisco is the leader of China is coming to America for, I guess, something that Gavin Newsom set up when he was out playing basketball there 2 weeks ago. And so they're having this meeting, and miraculously, San Francisco has been cleaned up. There's no more homeless people. There's all kinds of people sharing these images of, here's one picture of an underpass where there were tents and everything. They're all gone. Here's a picture of a building. It's all gone. They even changed the laws now. So all of the San Francisco vagrancy laws, which would not have you in prison, have all been superseded by some new imaginary federal jurisdiction that's been implanted in San Francisco for the next few days. So they can now arrest you for almost anything, which is amazing, right? They've already like keyed in the laws they're going to use. So they're going to be able to arrest anyone in San Francisco, and it won't be one of these catch and release anymore. These guys have real hooks, real nets. They're going to catch people for real, right? Not that I'm a fan of it, but that's what's happening. So, but it reminds me, now we're going to have Xi and Biden meeting this week. All right. So let me tell you what this reminds me of at the time we're in, and why I think that the Joetempkin villages, that was from Sticks, Hex, and Hammer, by the way, the Joetempkin village. What do you call that again? Is it a portmanteau when you smash words together? Anyway, it's a Joetempkin village. So, but it reminds me of something I used to see in high school. All right. So in high school, I was really into mountain biking. I had mountain bike magazines, and I was always working on my mountain bike. I had all kinds of parts, and I had a little garage set up for my mountain bike. So did all my buddies. We all would sort of go over to each other's houses and work on our bikes, and we spent all our money on bicycles. Like I had a $1,000 bicycle even back then. a Kona, by the way. I still have it. I'm a bike collector, by the way, if people don't know that. I have like a crazy collection of bikes, Chinese flying pigeons and Batavus from the Netherlands, and all kinds of different bicycles. Anyway, I love bicycles. When World War III is over, my plan is to go back into the bike business. I'm a huge bicycle fan. So when we were in high school, we had all kinds of things going on in the sense that, we'd be ordering parts, we'd be trading parts, we'd be buying parts. But we had a really cool thing, which was we had a garbage bin, because they made rally bikes not far from us. So rally bikes are, it's a weird thing. They're one of the original bike companies. They were a British company, and they broke into pieces in the 80s or 90s or something like that. And now each of them is sort of super independent. So Rally Canada is not the same bikes as Rally USA, but the Rally Canada ones were made, 15-mile bike ride, a 15-mile ride from my house. So we would always bike there and go into the garbage and take out cables and brake pads and all kinds of parts. And it was just a fun activity. Anyway, we had a pretty good inventory of parts, and we were able to trade them and all that stuff. But anyway, long story short, there were two people that wanted to sort of be in our bike gang in high school, but they happened to be the two biggest compulsive liars. They were just liars in high school. They couldn't help but lying all the time about everything. They were not good bikers. They would spend a shit ton on their bikes, but their bikes, like, they weren't good at biking. You know what I mean? So, but one time, and we would always pick up on these two people being sort of liars, right? Everybody in high school knew it. They were just, compulsive liars. So one day, I remember me and my friends in the bike gang saw two people who we hadn't really put it together yet, right? This guy was a big liar and into biking, and that person was into biking. And they were both liars. But then one day we saw them talking to each other, and we're like, what could they be talking about? Are they just making like bike deals for parts they don't have? So that's what I meant. We had this inventory to trade parts. So we had like a crazy sort of economy going on, and these guys wanted in, but we noticed that they were dealing and saying they had things they never had. So these two liars, it became a joke watching them talk. Right? We hadn't really keyed in on them it hadn't been established throughout all of us that they were both liars. But once we saw them both talking, it kind of all clicked. We're like, oh my God, these two people, they're never going to make a deal. They don't have anything they're saying they have, and they're just scam artists. So all that to say, when I saw that Biden and Xi were meeting in San Francisco this weekend, that's what I thought of. I thought of these two people who don't actually have much going for them, trying to trade. So imagine the world is saying, oh, World War III can be diverted if Biden and Xi would just get along and come up with a deal. But they're liars. They don't know how to make a deal. They're not going to make any deal, right? So now, even if they do, who cares? The world is changing so quickly. And it looks like, from my point of view right now, that instance that we had when we saw these two people and it sort of clicked that they were liars, and you didn't have to take them seriously, and them dealing fake with each other was actually a way to contrast with what we were doing, and it sort of made them stick out forever. They sort of never were taken seriously by us ever again, right? So here's the way I think about that, and the way that subtle sort of just a bit of a step to the side can actually help you reconfigure everything. So imagine America now has Potemkin villages. That's just one example, right? We were laughing for years, and Potemkin villages for years were a symbol of corruption. We have them now in America, right? And even if you say we don't have them in America, the real thing is so shitty that we have no choice. So imagine they're cleaning up everything in San Francisco, right? It's not even for sure Gavin Newsom can make it anymore, because a big part of LA this weekend has been shut down because there was a fire in an underpass, right? So there was a homeless encampment under one of the major underpasses below one of the principal highways through Los Angeles. And if you didn't know, Los Angeles is one of the worst traffic cities in the world. Toronto's worse, I think, or at least in the same category. So you need a car to get around LA. It's not a walkable city. Everything goes by car. There is no public transportation to speak of. And whatever public transportation there is absolutely not useful to you. So no one takes it, like Toronto. So they had a fire yesterday, And the fire was so big, it was the cardboard box. It was basically the homeless encampment below, right? All of it burned. And the fire got so hot that it actually melted part of the highway. So the columns, the concrete, the metal, none of it is safe anymore. It all got structurally destabilized from the fire yesterday. So there's a huge section of LA that's undrivable now. You can't actually get through. It's impenetrable, impassable. So Potemkin villages, sure, but the real thing falling apart, which is kind of the point of the Potemkin villages in the first place. So it's funny that resources in California going to clean up a city that's to make it look fake, while the real city, the major economic hub of California, there are two economic hubs of California, of course. You can't get through it right now. Well, it's kind of perfect, right? It's kind of perfect. So and it reminds us of the idea that these things can also collapse on their own weight, right? The idea that America was this and Joe Biden was the leader of the free world, right? Now the two big superpowers of the world are going to get together and talk about peace. Well, yeah, that would be nice, but can they even deliver it to us, or are we going to ignore them anyway? Look what's happening in China right now, right? In China, you're getting the fella who did the protests a year ago on the overpass. Speaking of overpasses, right? He was the guy who said, put up a message, Xi is the worst, blah, 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 you must revolt. It led to all that kind of stuff last year. We're right back there now. It looks like the economy is going down the tubes in China. It looks like they were not ready for America's reaction with the Russia thing. So Jonathan Cheng has all kinds of stuff about it today. So he says the following. This is the Wall Street Journal writer on the China beat, basically. So we don't necessarily trust this information, but it's context, and we're giving it to you. It goes, with weeks to go before a possible summit with Joe Biden, China's officials floated the plan. If Xi Jinping agrees to meet, he first wants a banquet with U.S. business leaders. The White House said no. With a lengthy agenda of friction points, Xi should see America's first. She should see Biden first before the CEOs. American officials told Chinese counterparts last month. According to people briefed on the plans, Biden and Xi are set to hold their first face-to-face meeting in a year on Wednesday, so that'll be this week, with both saying they want to mend a divisive relationship. To get to the table, both sides have resorted to maneuvers aimed at putting the other off balance. The path to the summit has been strewn with diplomatic gamesmanship, according to interviews with current and former. So this is my two high school guys just lying to each other again, right? So we'll see what comes out of it, right? More broadly, Xi is looking to buy time to build up China's resilience in a great power competition. Xi was taken aback by the West's backlash to his alignment with Russia and surprised at how quickly the U.S. was strengthening alliances against Beijing. In recent commentary, the Communist Party's flagship People's Daily struck an unusually conciliatory tone about the U.S., calling for the bilateral relationship to stabilize and improve instead of sliding into conflict and confrontation. It's okay to be nice to the Americans now, said Evan Medeiros, a Georgetown University professor and former senior national security official at the Obama administration. How credible. But it's a cyclical warming up amid structural deterioration in the relationship. So right away, just listen to these guys, right? Do you really think these are the people who could, one way or the other, solve problems, right? We'll see. But it looks like we're going to have a bit of a change, right? It looks like we're going to have a bit of a change. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, this idea of just being able to slant your opinion, right? Or just being able to slant your point of view just 10 degrees and your whole opinion can change. And it looks like the Chinese are going to have to deal with the Israeli situation as well, because it turns out that all weekend people have been talking about the tunnels under Gaza and how much help the Chinese have actually given them, how much support, technical engineering. Now, first of all, I continue to think that these tunnels, like imagine what the plan is, and both China and Gaza, right? This is the plan. Okay, this was the actual. I can't think of any other way. It's not the plan, right? So the plan was, we're going to dig tunnels under Gaza, and the whole plan relies on the Jews not being able to figure out how to kill people who are already underground. That was the plan. That's the big Chinese plan. We're going to dig tunnels, and the Jewish people are not going to be able to figure out how to kill us while we're already underground. That, what can someone tell me in the comments if the plan seems to be something else besides that? The plan really does look like it was. They're not going to be able to figure this out. Now, of course, they have treated the tunnels from the beginning as actual prisons, and they're preordained burial grounds. That's what I've seen, right? What do you want to shoot them out for? Just kill them inside, underground. Of all the places on planet Earth, I wouldn't want to be right now. Of all, like Antarctica, you name it. Of all the places I can think of on the Earth, like back in my septic tank, you name it, right? I can think of all the terrible places. I can't think of a worse place today to be on this huge planet of ours than in Gaza tunnels built by the Chinese. I can't think of a worse place. What's worse than that? Waiting to die? And your whole plan from the beginning for years now was the Jews won't figure it out. We're not going to figure it out. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the engineering skill to figure out how to get them. So here we are dealing with that, right? And again, this is the idea here that these people are, they're going to negotiate peace now. Like, they built tunnels under Gaza. They're not the smartest people, right? Joe Biden, right? So these groups are, I guess, negotiating the future of peace in the world. But again, it won't take long now until we realize what the real game is in World War III, which is this. It's the separation of money and state. The capacity of these people only exists to do what they're doing and have the conversations they think they're having because of the money system. They're not capable of deciding peace or war amongst people on Earth, right? They could do dumb things like tunnels under Gaza, right? Now, that's dumb. And now they're going to have to deal with this. The Chinese are I think, slightly... This is a whole new aspect for them, right? It's a whole new bit of leverage the world has over China. China has always maintained this sort of hands-off thing in Israel and Gaza. This makes them complicit, and they can't hide anymore. So we'll see what it does, but I think something will come of it that's significant, right? So there you go. The next one that we're going to talk about, and it's in a similar sort of point of view, right? Both of these are very similar. Just look at the small perceptions that are happening, the small recalibrations that this Israel-Gaza thing has produced. And to me, it looks like one of the greatest E/ACC. If you haven't seen that meme, by the way, everyone, it's the effective accelerationism. Remember effective altruism, which was a stupid idea? Effective accelerationism is now sort of becoming mimetic and powerful. We've been talking about accelerationism for a long time here. But the accelerationism, meme being embraced everywhere. And this Israel thing is, like I said, one of the best things that's come out of this Israel situation is that you can really see the brainwashing if you step back just a little bit. Because the truth about the Israeli war right now with Gaza and all this is there is no more moral high ground. Right? If you want to participate and have an opinion on the war, you've got to either accept one side is committing genocide against the other, because there's no not genocide in this current conflict. There's no, like, if you want to have an opinion, you must support which form of genocide you will, right? There's no way around it. If you have no opinion and you just want peace, you see all these people out there, I just want peace, I'm anti-war. Okay, well, you choose genocide of the Jews then, because if you just say peace and nothing changes and it's just like, oh, please be nice, Gaza people, well, guess what happens in a year or 2 or 3? That's more genocide, right? Or if you say, well, the Israelis have their right to get a revenge after what happened, which is sort of where I'm at, right? They can get some revenge. I don't want to pay for it. Like, I don't know why are we being asked to pay for the revenge? I'll give you the moral support. Like, yeah, you get some revenge, go for it. Like, you can kill more than were killed on your end, but that's as far as I'm willing to go, right? You can kill more, quite a few more. I don't really care. I'm not keeping tabs on how many are dead yet, right? But as disgusting as everything that I just said is, and it's absolutely disgusting what I just said, right? Now, that is what the war has forced us into, because we're dealing with unseen incentives. We're dealing with things we don't understand and have no visibility in. And we're just dealing with the byproduct of no visibility, which is the brainwashing. And the brainwashing has led us into the situation where there is no moral high ground. So if you buy the brainwashing and if you buy where it leads you, you're going to have to go to the end of the line, which is you support this form of genocide or that form of genocide. You don't get to not be into genocide and have an opinion on that, or you just don't, right? Again, everyone who says I'm against war, they've chosen one form of genocide. They just don't want to look at it, right? They just it's like not knowing that animals die when you eat meat, right? You got to accept it. You can't hide from it, right? You can go be a vegetarian, right? Sure, you can do that, but it doesn't matter. In this case, you do not get to ignore it. Now, the reason I mention all of this is because only in a world saturated with brainwashing and hidden incentives could you ever arrive at a scenario like this, right? This is the pure result of brainwashing and lying, which has not allowed people to see what's really going on. They just see where they've been led by the brainwashing, and the brainwashing has led everyone inevitably to a genocidal point of view. So it's a pure fiat war. There's no way around the Israeli situation but to see it in fiat. Now, the good news about this is that once you get to this dead end of you have to be into genocide to have an opinion on the war, other points of view start conflicting and they don't make sense, and they can't level off them. They can't level themselves off, and they can't get any form of balance. And you saw it. So Greta, she was giving a speech this weekend. They call, because she always gets booked for the climate shows, right? So they book her for the climate speech, right? So she goes to the climate show and then she does the climate speech, but she turns the climate speech into Hamas and Israel, right? She wears the thing and the scarf and the stuff. And then the organizer, right, has to come and take her off. No, this is a climate thing, right? But then they boo her and everything. But the point is, it's destroying that entire faction. Their ability to live in this echo chamber and not acknowledge the points of view that contradict one another is here, right? So they can't do it. And it goes into it goes even further, the Bill Burr case. I see people talking about this there too, right? If you guys didn't see it this weekend, so Trump, what a showman, huh? Maybe the greatest showman the world has ever known. Could you believe it? So he gets into the New York, he gets into Madison Square Garden, right? There's a UFC fight this weekend. Not only does he come into the place, he's joined by Kid Rock, Tucker Carlson, and Dana White. Joe Rogan's there, and Dan Bongino's there. But he comes in like it's a real fight entrance. You know how Tyson used to walk in with no robe on, right? Tyson was different when he was around as a boxer. He didn't do the big cloak and the hood. He just came in with his shorts on, his boxing shorts, and was ready to fight, But all of these guys have had, like in wrestling, who doesn't love a good entrance scene and a setup? And Trump's was the best, right? But what you saw when he did it was Bill Burr's wife, right, give him the finger, right? So Bill Burr, who for years had a shtick where he was able to sort of be in that middle ground where a lot of Trump people thought, well, he kind of likes us, right? I don't think that's going to happen anymore, right? Because it turns out that it doesn't look like I'm welcome over at Bill Burr's house, right? It doesn't look like his wife would be that into chatting about Bitcoin with me or having a talk about Trump or Biden. It looks like I would be another one of these people that she would give the finger to, right? And that kind of changes his economic point of view. Cernovich says it here, right? Bill Burr's comedic bits about being henpecked were funny until last night. That really is his life. He's not doing jokes. He's doing spoken word cry for help. But again, look at how much things can change with just a slight different vantage point, right? Just a tiny little different vantage point, and the whole scene is different, right? It's the same with what Trump is going through right now with all these new. So it looks like the line to cancel elections is going to be Trump is going to arrest all of his political opponents the moment he's voted in, right? So they're trying to set this up, but it's really difficult to set up when you're actually trying to indict Trump yourself and do the same thing you're accusing him of. Remember what we've said for a long time, that psychological projection is one of the most important filters you can use to understand the media. Tucker Carlson's been saying for a long time that psychological projection is literally the entire modus operandi of the Democrat Party. Everything they accuse you of doing is something they do themselves. It sounds stupid at first, but once you see it, you'll see it everywhere in your life, that anything someone accuses you of, you can usually dig a little deep and see projection there, right? Projection is a big part of this. We know we love Jungian psychology as Bitcoiners because it does it runs in parallel with our worldview in a lot of ways, right? That we continue to talk about Bitcoin as a psychological commodity, and it helps in your own personal psychology. It helps give you feedback loops, and it helps give you accountability. And a lot of that can actually be extended to the state, right? It's that accountability that we think will leverage the separation of state and money, because for once, money won't just be the words and lies they say that have been monetized. It'll be something else, right? So the projection piece here, right? So this is from MSNBC. This is, Steve Bannon is one of those names, right? You should always think of Steve Bannon like Phil Bump, like Aaron Rupar, right? These are not credible people. Mehdi Hassan, what's the one with the chick with the short hair? It looks like a dude, the glasses and everything. She's awful. She's the worst. Very smart lady. But she's the MSNBC. Rachel Maddow, remember Rachel Maddow? What's amazing is that Rachel Maddow and Tucker Carlson have both used the same Alex Jones defense. The Alex Jones defense, which is, we're not news. We're actually just like stand-up comedians, and this is just our bit. You shouldn't take us seriously, right? So she's actually used that to defend herself. It's the Rachel Maddow, Alex Jones defense. And Tucker's actually used that as well. So, Steve Bannon is one of those names, right? So whenever you read Steve Bannon, understand this: you're watching a hand go up a puppet's ass, and it's speaking, right? It's not real. It's all manipulation, right? So here's what they say. Steve Bannon on why Trump isn't making much of an effort to hide his intentions about weaponizing government against his perceived foes. He's practically bragging about it. So that the gaslight here is that Trump is not having a weaponized system against them. But what's amazing is this, right? So everything they use in this article, in any way that they're criticizing him, is always the same thing. It's Trump saying the following: imagine I'm Biden. Imagine I'm the same as what he does. So all he ever does, he doesn't even say it's him. His way of approaching it to lure them out into doing this is to say, to basically paint a hypothetical picture of him being Biden and what would happen if he did everything Biden is currently doing, right? So look at the way they have to explain this in the article. Look at the kind of effort they have to use now in brainwashing and manipulation in order to get to their point. So this is the quote: yeah, if they do this, and they've already done it, but if they follow through on this, yeah, it could certainly happen in reverse, he said. This is Trump. It could happen in reverse. What they've done is they've released the genie out of the box, right? So we all understand what he means by that, right? But what do they try and tell you he means, right? Of course, they're going to mind read him, right? This is what they say, right? The first is that Trump isn't making an effort to hide his intentions. The investigative report offers important details. He's saying it specifically, literally. Of course, he's not making an effort to hide. Here's the thing about the logic, though. This is them getting into the mind reading. So the logic. The second is that Trump's logic is deeply flawed. To hear him tell it, prosecutors are trying to hold him accountable for his suspected felonies, which in turn means the identical efforts can now happen in reverse if he's returned to power. Here's a way to understand projection. When someone starts using analogies to argue instead of arguing the actual point, in general, you're dealing with a liar. You're dealing with a scammer, right? Here's how it looks, right? Remember, this person is just going to take a separate argument and try and use the logic so that you would be convinced, right? So he's saying, now, that's not how any of this works. If a police officer arrested a car thief caught in the act of stealing a car, it does not mean the thief would be justified in trying to arrest the police officer. Okay, so they're trying to tell you that this is about criminals and police officers and cars. It's not. It's about stolen elections and stolen authority through brainwashing. It's nothing to do with cars, right? they're saying here the cop has released the genie out of the box. That's where their logic goes, right? Finally, there's the recent history to consider. To hear Trump tell it, if voters put him back in the White House, it'll be President Joe Biden's fault if Trump tries to use federal law enforcement to go after his opponents. He started it, the Republican is effectively arguing, right? So here we go, right? And he comes to his conclusion here, just saying that this person is going to, he's threatening to use the totalitarian powers in order to arrest political opponents, but they don't want you to see that that's what they're doing, right? Of course not. So anyway, the point is that it doesn't take much, right? Just look at what happened to Bill Burr, right? One picture of his wife, and now we understand that they're not interested in half of their revenue, right? They did it. It's too late. I don't know if she can take it back. Even if I don't care, dead to me. I don't give a shit. Bill Burr can fuck right off, right? Or is that his name? Bill Burr, Bill Burr, who gives a fuck? So his wife giving the finger like that, no one asked her to do that. It didn't give them anything. It's just a loss, right? It's just 100% loss in their part, but that's fine, right? That's okay. They're free to do that. I respect them. I now get the jokes better for him, right? I think I perceive them better, but just look what it takes. Just look what can happen, right? It's just as veterans say, slight miscalculation leads to major problems, right? So we have it there. We have the Trump thing, right? The civil service is another one, right? The civil service is another one. And we get all these stories now, right? There's a government shutdown coming again, right? How many times have we been through this, right? What did we see a couple of weeks ago when the government was shut down or unfinanced? Nothing. Who cares? It was the best. We weren't sending money to this shithole, that shithole. So again, one of these perceptions, it used to seem like a threat. America shutting down, right? Now everyone's like, yay, let's do it. Let's shut it down. So we might be there again this week, right? Here's another one, farming, right? Farming. So imagine what we talk constantly about trusted third parties and what they've done for the failures of banking. We talk about it all the time, that information laundering looks exactly like the bank situation. Failure of trusted third parties, not going to do it, not going to work, right? But now two stories come to us. And this is all about state capacity and all about where we're headed on a Bitcoin standard and I think a little bit of the challenges that are ahead of us, right? A little bit of the challenges. Two stories that have it in America. And again, I'm talking about just the slight pivot that's required of all of us individually and collectively as a society to get to a Bitcoin standard, and how little it actually is, and how things are being set up for it to happen naturally with a little bit of effort on our part. So the first one is, and this is the third party corruption that is probably as bad as the banks and the brainwashing with the media, but we don't perceive it that way, but we might soon, and that's the food. Now, Bitcoiners have been way ahead of this food thing, diet, eating right, what is the right food, what's the wrong food. Now, remember, in most of our lifetimes, the government has been not just lying about food, right? Actively misleading you. It's not the same, right? Not just wrong, actively misleading you. The food pyramid is one of the greatest examples. One of the greatest orange pills out there is that you've been lied to about food for a long time, right? So, this food thing, Bitcoiners have been way ahead of it, right? And the idea of having an industrial food systems in America have led to some of the worst corruption we have. It's led to Americans being super unhealthy. It's led to all kinds of trouble. And now what is the food pyramid, Bigo Graffiti? The food pyramid was something we were all taught as kids, which was what was the right foods to eat, right? So we were all taught a food pyramid when we were kids, and it's filled with bread and grains. That's like your base, right? The things at the top were, go look it up. It's terrible, and it only got rescinded recently, right? But this was not just. This goes, so there's a lot of Harvard and a lot of investigations in Harvard's complicity in this and corruption in this, because Harvard is the one that did instill this food pyramid. And so the food pyramid, it's not even just that it was wrong and it was propagandized. It was in every classroom. Schools built their entire cafeteria meals out of this stuff. I remember the food pyramid as just like you had a poster of the world map, ABCs, the multiplication table, and the food pyramid, right? Yeah, carbs over fat, basically. Yeah, carbs over fat. Yeah, it's all like it makes it sound like everything comes from carbs, like that is food, and then there's other stuff on top, right? So it was not a good scene, right? Not a good scene. Anyway, two things are happening, right? You've got and I'll show why they're connected, right? So Robert Kennedy coming out with pushing a documentary called Common Ground documentary, which is all about regenerative farming and how important it is for the future of America and the future of our own health and diets. And so he says here, must see, Ground Doc unveils a dark web of money, power, and politics behind our broken food system. As president, I will revolutionize the USDA, that's the US Drug Administration, to support small, organic, and regenerative farmers. At the same time, you've got, what's his name? Thomas Massey's bill, the Prime Act, right? So the Prime Act being basically what I experience in Vermont, and it would create it nationally. And in Vermont, what I experience is I can go to any farmer in the state and buy direct from them. I can buy raw milk. I think we're even going to be changing our raw milk laws soon. We're going to go like Maine. Maine, you can buy the raw milk in the grocery store. In Vermont, we can buy non-homogenized, lightly pasteurized. So they never put the temperature really high when they pasteurize it. They only get to like maybe 70 or 80 degrees. They don't boil it. And then they never filter it to homogenize it. It's not, it'll separate. So I get a cream line even if I buy milk at the grocery store in Vermont, not all the milk, you have to buy the cream line milk, but I can get cream line, non-homogenized, high fat. They don't even indicate the fat content. It's not even on the jug. It's just fat, right? And you can see it. It comes at the top. It's beautiful. But I can go to the farm and any farmer can sell direct without any inspection, certifications, or anything. I get my steak that way. I get chicken that way. I get all kinds of stuff. You can go to a farm. There's a few butchers. Some butchers will go to your farm and do it. You don't, there's a few things you don't get. You don't get an organic certification necessarily, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't matter. You get, good food. So, when you see Thomas Massey pushing for the Prime Act and you see it becoming presidential, or at least at the level of the president, and you get JFK tying it together, right? It is about politics, brainwashing, money that has actually contorted our view of diet, right? Diet, food, right? So again, I continue to think that the diet thing is going to be one of the most important keys in unlocking people's ability to perceive just how little trust they should have in government officials. China is almost there, right? China now fighting Japan. I don't know if you guys saw this. They've banned all seafood from Japan because of like the Fukushima release of water. Now I've seen some disgusting farms in China in my life, like disgusting. The last time I lived in Japan and South Korea, I go often, but I actually lived there in 2008 and 2009. And at the time, that was when the melamine scandal first broke out, that they were selling foreign kids' milk, baby milk, but it was filled with paint. They were selling white paint as baby's milk. And of course, they lost it in Korea. They weren't even importing that, but they refused all imports of Chinese food from then on. They had been caught in my time living in Korea. They started industrialized making kimchi in China. If ever you see kimchi made in China, do not buy it. It's cardboard. It's not even real. Koreans banned it a long time ago. That's why there's a foreign market for kimchi made in China for the rest of the world. It is not viable in Japan and Korea. Not viable. You can't buy it. Right? They hate it. They don't want anything to do with it. They'll buy it from Japan. That's fine. So both Japan and Korea already anti-Chinese agriculture. How much longer before American agriculture actually gets to this level of like you can't go near it? Right? We're pretty much there. I don't know anyone who would want to buy this stuff. So there you go. We've got so many things that are close now to being able to change. It would take just a little bit, just a little. And the reason I mention all of this is because it looks like the GROK Twitter thing, so Twitter's GROK, is going to do what we all hoped this would do and protect us from this kind of fake news, protect us, help arm us against lies around food, lies around all these things, right? And all it takes is a slight pivot to understand what's going on, and all of the stuff breaks, right? So here's what's happened. This is from Adrian Dittman on This Is All About GROK. The changes in the algo. No. This is a mix of GROK plus the new algorithmic changes that Elon was talking about on the Lex Friedman podcast, which I didn't watch, but this is a breakdown of it. So the changes in the algo and what Elon is truly trying to do, here is the full breakdown. A couple of quick points. It all represents a really significant shift in what we're about to see in our feed and the overall experience on X. The shift from reply guy tactics to authenticity is where it's all headed. The value of a post will not be defined by engagement in its entirety, but by the native value of the content. So here's the current state. Content visibility, including posts and replies, is currently unevenly prioritized, with manually written heuristics favoring recommendations to followers, benefiting large accounts, but limiting the reach of smaller ones. So kind of basic and dumb, right? The algorithm is clunky, let's say. It sounds clunky, right? The For You algo heavily relies on these heuristics, impacting content reach and potentially hindering smaller accounts. I can feel when I'm on For You versus following. I can feel it, right? If I'll be scrolling down, like, what the fuck's going on here? I'll look up and I'll say, oh, it's stuck on For You, right? Because you can feel the hand manipulating you when it's on For You. When you're not on For You, I have a much more pleasant experience, right? When it's on For You, I find myself getting angry, getting jacked, getting like outraged by something that I've seen or whatever, right? Proposed changes. Algo defined value assignment to content will be driven by end-to-end architecture-based AI. So again, this is the GROK part that I'm telling you about, and why I think it might help create a bit of an iron dome around fake news. User-specific vectors representing preferences will guide content prioritization, providing a refreshed user experience within the feed that is inclusive and personalized. The new approach will promote quality content across the entire user base, irrespective of account size. Additional insights are that Elon emphasizes that AI will play a pivotal role in content importance assignment, suggesting a departure from the current manually driven process. The algo will differentiate between content from accounts users follow, non-AI recommended, and those they don't, AI recommended, which should significantly improve the diversity of the content we're exposed to. Implications: the proposed changes signify a fundamental transformation in how content is presented and recommended, with a move towards a democratic and AI-driven system. So, it's very horrible and negative. Exactly. Yeah, P-Man, it is. But what they're saying here is that it's going to change, right? It's going to change. AI differentiated recommendations for followed and non-followed account content suggests a strategic effort to broaden exposure in diverse content. And if it looks anything like the community notes thing, where it's about aggregation and getting both sides of a point of view, imagine all we would probably need to be able to navigate the fake news is context, because that's how the fake news operates. It removes context, right? The Steve Bannons, the Phil Bumps, the Aaron Rupars, that's their job. They just cut context out, right? So if you can re-inject context into every conversation, your ability to shield against brainwashing is going to go way up, right? And especially if you're not out for the dopamine and the delivery and the outrage and all that, it's going to go even higher, right? So what he's saying is goodbye reply guy, hello value adding content. So here's, really, I mean, what I think is one of the more important ways to understand this is, look, we are going to have the ability to perceive fake news and brainwashing much faster than we ever have before. And if we can do that, if we can shield ourselves from fake news and brainwashing, if we can give just a little bit of context to every single question out there, we're going to be done with this World War III. It's that big of an implication, right? To have a tool like this that, if it works the way I think it could, you're actually going to have the type of cognitive increase you need in order to not get lured down all of these dark paths. And that's, I think, where we're headed. Now, will the AI inside of Twitter do the job? I don't know. I mean, it looks like it. It looks like it could. But it's the start, right? It's the start of, you know, understanding food better, understanding money better, understanding incentives better. This could be the tool, it could be, that allows individuals to navigate their way through World War III in a way that will increase their chances of surviving and all of these things, which is what we want, right? We don't want dying in World War III. That would be a bummer. Dutch people had to drink milk a day. Well, I don't think that's bad for you necessarily. I think the gross milk they fed you is bad. I can't touch European milk. It's disgusting. Disgusting. That shit that you can leave out and not even put in the fridge. What the fuck? Terrible, 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 terrible. But look, the Dutch are the biggest people in the world, aren't they? So I don't know if their diet was totally bad. I can't believe the amount of shitty bread in Holland. That surprised me. Shitty bread. You got bagels, I guess. That's pretty good. Pretty good. There was one more thing I wanted to say about algorithmic changes and visibility. I don't remember what it is, though. Something about Twitter. Don't remember. Anyway, that's all I got for today, team. Let me get some of these points here. I have seen projections. Yeah, Middle East. Yeah, story behind the story all the time. Yeah, story. You know what I don't do anymore with the war. I don't care about the history. That's what I say. I don't care. I don't care. Are you talking about the history now? I don't care. That's what I say every time. It drives people crazy. I don't care. No, don't care. We love our Jungian psychology, indeed. I have seen projections for years now. I have a word for it. Thanks. No problem, Dean. Yeah, it's all about projection. With regards to Israel-Gaza situation, do you still hold the same opinion? It turns out IDF let Hamas proceed with the attack. That was always on the. That was always in the possibilities, John. I'm not saying there are good people or bad people here, right? And here, so a lot of people, John, are using this as some indictment against Israel, right? Oh, they never believed in a two-state solution. Well, neither did I. I didn't think that was possible. Like, you can't have it if you have a two-state solution and it's sincere. Sure, that was possible. But from the Oslo Accords in '94 straight through, there was never a sincere two-state solution. It was always, okay, a two-state for now, but we'll kill you later. Once we increase our capacity, we'll kill you, right? So if they let it happen, it's along those lines. It's like, well, we don't believe in the possibility of a two-state solution. Let's just turn the page because this is we're just waiting to die. So any one of those arguments that says, which I believe probably is true, the IDF did probably allow this to happen. Because I always see them attached to that point of view that, oh, Netanyahu's lying. He never believed in a two-state solution. I think he's always been clear that a two-state solution was not possible. It's not an option. It's fake. It's a fake option. And if you want to remove the fake option, that was probably the way to do it. So again, it doesn't matter because, and it doesn't even matter that maybe Israel's after the land for some other reason. That it does look like that, right? It does. It does. It looks like there's a land grab here. Again, the people in Gaza, you have to think of them as like they have. Imagine if COVID was actually deadly and they all had it. That's what's going on there. This is a virus, and these people should be quarantined because their thing can get out, right? The victim ideology, and you have my stuff, and all of that stuff. So the brainwashing there is so thick that it's been on for so long. So it's they're not capable of peace right now, right? It would take a thorough brainwashing in order to change that. So That's what I see about it. There's no guilty, good people, bad people here. This is misaligned incentives. The Gaza people have been used as a fundraising letter for a long time, right? They're a fundraising letter. That's what they are, right? They give me money, right? We need victims to get the money. They don't want to solve it, right? Do you think anyone out there studying global warming wants to solve global warming? Of course not, right? Greta doesn't want it gone. She's at a job then, you know? So there's no good guys or bad guys there. That's kind of my point, right? At the end, you've got to say, if you want, like, I don't necessarily want to have an opinion on what's going on over there, right? My opinion is slightly nuanced in the sense that after what happened, if Israel wants some revenge, go for it. But I don't want to pay for it. Like, why am I paying for the revenge, right? I don't want to pay for that. Like, you can't let your life go forward with that stuff next to you. That's the end of Israel, right? You can't live next to people who would do what happened, who are that brainwashed. So you got to do something about it, right? That's where I'm at. Like, you just have to, right? And if they kill more people than the other side, well, that was the risk that was taken from the beginning. I would only criticize Israel if the death toll gets really high. And I have a limit. I do have a limit, right? There's only so much blood I think they're allowed to take out of this. It's higher than they lost from my perspective, but none of that means anything, right? It's going to happen no matter what. What's going on there is independent of all of our opinions. It's independent of all of our opinions. This is something that was wound up by the fiat monsters and has to play out. There's no way you can stop it now, right? There's too much potential energy caught up in it. It's going to play out. So what opinions I have on it and genocide, it's baked in the cake. There's no way around it, right? All you can say is this is the end game of a system that's decrepit and destroyed, and look what it gives you, right? Inevitably, if you're going to brainwash people using moral high ground, self-righteousness, and dopamine delivery that comes from self-righteousness, if you're going to use that feedback loop to inject all of your propaganda, which is what's done, right? That's the foreplay. The foreplay is you're going to feel really good about this, right? You're the good guy. You're going to be the good guy, right? And that's how they get the brainwashing to work. The limit of that, the end road of that, is that everyone is supporting genocide, right? Which is what we're at. That's why this war is the end game of the fiat war. So it's the most fiat thing you'll ever see, right? Ever. Right? And anyone who's out there saying there's a good guy and a bad guy, even if they're Bitcoiners, sorry, you're not. You've gone down the wrong road. You've gone down dopamine delivery, get your facts straight world, right? So that they can go for it. They're free to say there's good guys and bad guys. There aren't. In a world in the Bitcoin standard, we're only going to learn about Israel, Gaza, and Hamas as a brainwashing operation. That's it. That's the only relevance to our life, right? And one of the biggest, and one of the things that allowed the fiat world to perpetuate. Remember, the real divide here between Bitcoiners and fiat people is the fiat people want to tell you that the point of government is to protect its people, right? Bitcoiners are telling you that the point of government now is to help us protect ourselves from government, right? So it's a very big disconnect, and it's the danger is either the government or the thing the government is protecting you from, and it's going to take this war in Israel and Hamas to understand that people like Xi and Biden are selling something completely different than peace and security, and it's naive to think they are. And so anyone who's looking at the Israel situation is like, they're the good guys and they're the bad guys, right? No, there's nothing like that. I'm okay with the revenge, and that's it. And that's as far as my opinion goes on it. Revenge, go for it. Pay for it here? No, I'm not paying for your revenge. Right? You go pay for your revenge. You deserve it. You get to do it, but I'm not. Like, why do I have to give to a country like Israel? Why the hell am I paying billions of dollars? Do they have bad credit? Do they not have any money? They can't pay for their own bullets, right? And then the whole argument is that we need our influence. America needs influence in the area. You don't think we have influence in the area? Trump had it perfect. Damn, Trump is the best at this one, huh? Remember when he said Netanyahu the other day, he's not perfect, right? His one this weekend is Israel is losing the PR war. They better do better on the PR war because it's not looking good, right? it's great. It's great. Trump is probably the only guy that can handle this, right? All right. And Codex Alimentarius, food will win the war. It sure will. Yeah. I don't look at the for you. It's horrible and negative. It sure is. Yeah. If it's not for you, if it's for you, it's not for you. Youth demographic is beginning to gain synergies of cooperations that will soon take on spectacular effects on social media outreaches. Yeah, I think so. And that's why I say this AI thing, I think, is going to help. I don't even see anymore. Filtered out with Chrome extension. I didn't know you could do that. Truth emerges from the removal of falsity. Good way of putting it, Robert. I like that. Smash the like button. Stay home. You got this. Yeah. Until there's something other to do in the Middle East than hate Jews, Israel prospects will suffer. Yeah. Only if AI inquiries deliver personal results optimized for users, it can work. X will have to resist optimizing the algo for more profit. Sounds long-term unsustainable. Nostr is probably Yeah, I think you're right about that, Bitcoin graffiti. I do. But remember, Nostr benefits now from being a community of 120 plus IQ only. Right. So it seems cooler than it is, but it's because it seems really cool, and I love it. I'm not putting Nostr down, right? But the people who are there are smart. So you don't have to worry about the algo and the this and the that, right? I had an NPC on it the other day, though. It was hilarious. What did they give me shit for? Something about Trump. It was some like socialist Bitcoiner. They were trolling the episode I made about Trump's American Academy teaching Bitcoin. I didn't think that was going to happen. I don't really use it though. Yeah, I use it. My next painting features a portrait NPC Muhammad. It was nice. You're not going to make it, Tommy. I was at the Bataclan in Paris just a few weeks before the shooting that was there. And not only that, I was on my honeymoon. I was there that summer. The pizzeria where they blew everyone away out front, it was actually on my Wi-Fi. I had eaten lunch there one day because it was like right across from my Airbnb, and I had been registered. Like, because when I saw the name of the pizzeria, I was like, I recognize that when it happened, And of course, the Bataclan was near Charlie Hebdo, the magazine Charlie Hebdo. So that's where it was. You can also switch trends. Yeah, I don't like the trends either. I don't get anything out of it. Yeah, I don't get any of it. All right, team. That's all I got for today. I went longer than I thought. Amazing. So that was a almost zero prep episode. We did our best. All right, team. Peace. See y'all tomorrow. Wife is back tonight. And then, yeah, there should be no more troubles. All right. Peace, everyone.